You that the views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Play ball! It's now time to kick your weekend off the right way. So get ready for the next 180 minutes as we bring you the top stories in the sports world.
The Lakers have landed LeBron.
The biggest moments.
Pass is caught! Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown!
And the hottest takes.
I have to look at that again.
Now your hosts, Trevor Mader, Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair, and Kramer Sansone with the Weekend Sports Kickoff on X106 and KNWT Channel 8. How is everybody doing? Welcome in to the Weekend Sports Kickoff. We're a little bit of a mess today, as you can see. No classes at Northwest because it is homecoming week here in Northwest Missouri State University, which means the homecoming football game will partake tomorrow. I'm Trevor Mader, joined by Jacob Blair, Justin Quick, and a giggly Kramer Sansone here to start the show off.
It really looked like you two were fighting over there just because of the headphone situation.
Yeah, the headphones are a little tangled. We'll have to.
We had more problems starting this show than I think we've had all year up till this point. So hopefully from here on out, we take care of that.
Except for last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already forgot whatever went wrong last week.
Lost all the files and had to do that little special recording that we did.
Yeah. Props to you, by the way. As you may be able to see now, Northwest Missourian sports editor Justin Quick with us, as he has been to open every show, or almost every show. I think maybe all but one this year. And going to talk some Northwest football. And Justin, I know you went down to Pittsburgh State last week. First of all, isn't that just a fun trip to Pittsburgh, Kansas?
Oh, it's a blast.
Yeah, lots of cornfields and stuff to look at, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had, Wegley there.
Yeah, I bet that kept you really entertained.
Oh, yeah.
That's a long ride with Andrew Wegley. Just kind of talk about the battle last week. We talked about on Friday coming in that it was going to be a hard-fought football game, and we thought it was a virtual toss-up. And then Northwest went down there and pretty much just flexed their muscles and wasn't even really a game.
Yeah, like you said, it wasn't really a game. I mean, it started out pretty close, and both teams were kind of going back and forth. Northwest got that early touchdown in the first quarter, but second quarter they just kind of blew it open. I mean, they scored 21 points there, went into halftime with a 28-0 lead, and I know Coach Wright wasn't very happy with the way they played in the second half, but that first half he's got to be extremely happy about the way they played, coming out and feeling that atmosphere and having Braden also be able to handle that pressure.
On the Pittsburgh State side, what was it like once they got down 14-0, 21-0? Because you got to think hosting that game where potentially the MIAA title could be on the line down the road, they had to feel probably pretty good coming into that game and to just kind of get the wind taken out of them early. Did that place get pretty quiet?
It did. It got real quiet real quick. I mean, towards the beginning of the game, the opening kickoff, it was loud. They had that, the noise meter going on the score or on the video screen and everything. But after that, that second touchdown was really when the crowd started kind of hushing quite a bit. After the first one, still loud. They were still in it. Pretty close game so far. But that second touchdown kind of took it out of them. And whenever they were able to get that, the crowd just kind of went dead silent after that. And it was almost an eerie feeling because you could see the momentum shifting in a hard way towards Northwest.
How empty was the stadium towards the fourth quarter?
Oh, towards the fourth quarter, it almost cleared out. Like it was.
That's what Coach Wright was pretty much saying. Yeah.
Yeah, there was not many people there. It looked like a blowout win at Northwest.
That's good.
Was this maybe their best performance of the year as far as a whole? Because Missouri Southern, I think that was kind of what we expected. With all due respect to Missouri Southern, their program not quite where Northwest has been over the years, and Missouri Western played a lot closer game. That's going to indicate, and then Emporia State's been so up and down. But nobody really saw this result coming on Saturday. Is it safe to say this was their best performance of the year so far through halfway, I guess?
I would say so far because they were able to get the ground game going with Strayhorn early on. He finished with over 100 yards, and they were able to move the ball around through the air as well. I mean, you got obviously Bain had his day, and he had a good day, but you got guys like LaTroy Harper, who's a true freshman, who was able to get in the end zone. And he was finding people left and right. He found Cody Massey for a big play off of a reverse flea flicker, which was fun to watch. And it was definitely their best game that I've seen so far this year. They it came out strong like they wanted to, and they were able to get that early lead, like I said, and that kind of helped them in the second half to where they were kind of sputtered a little bit in the second half and weren't able to keep the momentum going. But it's their best game so far, but I think they still have a lot better football to play, be able to play a full 60-minute game, and I think that'll be something that Coach Wright really emphasizes to them this week.
Yeah, last week, Braden Wright, 15 of 31, 211 yards, 2 scores. He did throw a pick as well. Rushing-wise, Isaiah Strayhorn carried the ball just 11 times, but 147 yards and a score. I know that huge 67-yard run on the second drive of the game that put them deep down into Pitt State territory after they had the ball pinned on their own 3-yard line, and that kind of was a little bit of maybe a gut punch for the Gorillas as well. Alec Tatum had a rush as well, 23 yards for a touchdown. Josh Caldwell, 7 carries, 57 yards, but did not find the end zone. I found it interesting so far this year that, we talked a lot about how Caldwell was going to be the guy coming in. The numbers he put up at Missouri Western were remarkable, and there were high expectations for him coming in. And it seems like the roles of him and Strayhorn have kind of been alternated between what we thought they would be coming into the year. Strayhorn's been kind of that feature back, and Caldwell's been kind of that secondary option.
Yeah, he's been kind of more of a pounder late in the games whenever everybody's getting tired. You bring him in to, hit some heads and make a few bruises. But Caldwell and Strayhorn, they have kind of switched, like you said. Even Coach Wright admitted at the press conference at Pizza Ranch Tuesday that Strayhorn came into the year, as a 3-4 guy. He was that deep in the roster in the depth chart, and obviously they're deep at running back anyway. But he said throughout camp he finally got moved up to that 2-3 slot, and then what they've seen so far, they just switched him. And
he's listed as the starter for the game tomorrow, according to the media guide. So he'll get the start tomorrow against Nebraska Kearney, homecoming here in Maryville, a 2 p.m. kickoff. You can catch that game on X106. Myself, Jacob Blair, and Kramer Sansone will be on the call. Also, you can catch the Tailgate Show streaming live on KNWT Channel 8's Facebook page and on X106. Jacob Blair, Kramer Sansone, and Nolan Brooks will have the coverage of that beginning at 12:30. Kramer, do you have something you need to add real quick? Just pointing away. Okay, well, stop it. Yeah, last week they're able to go down and get the win, and what that does is now it puts Northwest in the driver's seat in the MIAA. Fort Hays State suffering a loss last week. The MIAA is just beat up on each other. I mean, it's been crazy in the MIAA, and now if you're the Bearcats, you're sitting right where you want to, even though you have that blemish on your record to Central Oklahoma. You're at 5-1, and you control your own destiny in the MIAA.
Yeah, and Coach Wright kind of hit on that loss at Central Oklahoma as something that kind of woke the team up. They came in, they started off the year, 3-0, I believe?
Yes, 3-0.
Oklahoma loss. And then after that, they kind of he even admitted they started to take it a little bit easier in practice. He was looking at they didn't have that same fire that they did during the week of practice, and he said that game kind of opened it back up. And since then, every practice has been one that's been them preparing to take on the next opponent instead of just going through the motions. I think that's something that's been big so far.
And I think sometimes when you're a program like Northwest where you're not used to losing a lot, I mean, I've been here, this is my third year here, and this is just the fourth loss they suffered was a Central Oklahoma one, 3 of those coming last year. And I know going years back, they'd only lost like 2 games in a 4-year span. When you don't have a lot of losses, sometimes it'll do that to you because you're like, oh my goodness, we're not going to win every week, and it wakes you up and kind of gets you angry. And I think we've seen that the last couple of weeks. I think Emporia State and Pitt State kind of got the aggression that they wanted to take out after that Central Oklahoma loss. A quick look at the MIAA standings right now. Northwest is 5-1, as is Pitt State, but Northwest does have that tiebreaker. Fort Hays State with the loss, they dropped to 4-2. Missouri Western 4-2, and then this week's opponent, the Lopers, the Nebraska Kearney, is also 4-2. Central Missouri, Central Oklahoma, Emporia State, and Washburn are all 3-3. Lindenwood is 2-4. Missouri Southern and Northeastern State still vying for their first win of the year. Quick look at the MIAA football schedule for this weekend. As we said, Kearney is in town to take on the Bearcats tomorrow. You can hear that game on X106 with myself, Kramer, and Jacob for a 2 p.m. kickoff. Emporia State is at Central Missouri. Missouri Southern is at Washburn. Central Oklahoma is at Missouri Western. Lindenwood is at Northeastern State. And Pitt State travels to Fort Hays. So both teams trying to look to bounce back to after losses. And this is one of those games where if you're a Northwest fan or student, you're almost kind of rooting for Fort Hays a little bit to give yourself a 2-game advantage over Pitt State and still have a game up on Fort Hays.
Yeah, what we've seen with the MIAA all season long is other than Missouri Southern and Northeastern State, other than those two opponents, anyone can beat anyone in the MIAA any week in time. So if you're Northwest Missouri, you go take care of Kearney. But if Fort Hays, gets that Pittsburgh win, now you're 1 game up in the MIAA, and there's still a lot of teams that can cause trouble the rest of the season for anybody. So like you said, Trevor, Northwest is definitely in the driver's seat of the MIAA right now. You stay where you're in. At this point, if Pittsburgh does lose to Fort Hays State, then there's that other loss out there that could come to a Central Missouri or a Fort Hays later this season. It's shaping up well right now for the Bearcats.
You look at the Bearcats schedule, like we said, Kearney tomorrow, and then next week they're on the road at Lindenwood, and then they make the short little drive to Tahlequah, Oklahoma. It's only, I think, 7
hours.
7 hours, 6 hours. Short little drive there.
Are you going to go to that and cover that one?
We might.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. You
Oh,
and Wiggly again.
That'll be a fun car ride, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the word I would use, but no, I'm sure it would be a fun time. And then at home against Fort Hays State, the final home game of the year, that'll be on November 3rd, a 1:30 p.m. kickoff.
That's a good day.
Yeah, it's somebody's birthday that day, isn't it?
I think it is.
Yeah, we don't really care. And then at Central Missouri on the 10th, that one could be an interesting one too. Central Missouri's been kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team this year. They've had really good outings, and they've kind of faltered in some as well. So no easy games in the MIAA this year. And Missouri Southern, it did end up looking pretty easy, but outside of that, there has not been a easy game for the Bearcats. Let's kind of shift our focus now, I guess, to what is coming up tomorrow. Nebraska Kearney coming in town for homecoming here at Northwest, so a lot of festivities going on. We've been busy with homecoming stuff, and we'll be busy throughout the week as well. And we'll have the broadcast for you on X106, 2 p.m. kickoff. Myself, Kramer, and Jacob will be on the call. But just kind of what have you kind of seen from Kearney, or what have you read or studied about Kearney going into this matchup?
They're going to run the ball.
Yeah, they're going to run the ball a lot.
Triple option. Yeah, they come in averaging right around 304 yards, I think, per game, and 3 rushing touchdowns per game. So that's kind of been Northwest's niche since, as far as I can remember, is stopping the run. So it's going to be 2 powerhouse units kind of colliding there, and it's going to be something to see whether they can hold Kearney to. If they hold them to 150 or lower, I think they have a very good shot of making this a blowout, because Kearney doesn't pass the ball often. I think they average between 8 to 10 passes per game, and if that's the case, if they're forcing Kearney to pass, I think that's something that Coach Wright will be happy with.
And that's what I want to see. I want to see the defense stop the run, of course, which is probably bound to happen. But I want to see them force the throw. If they can get him out of the pocket possibly a little bit and he throws the ball, see some interceptions. There's only 2 interceptions on the year for Northwest. I mean, it's a low number. I know they finished with 13 last year, but still, I mean, this is well into the season right now. So I mean, force the ball, have some interceptions thrown. That'd be very nice.
Kearney this year, 96 attempts through 6 games, so 16 attempts per game. They're averaging just 125 passing yards a game, whereas Northwest double that at 250. Passing defense-wise, Northwest giving up just over 204 yards a game. That is right in the middle of the MIAA right now. But then you look at where the game is going to be. It's going to be on the ground. This could be a really quick game. We could be partaking in homecoming festivities by 5 o'clock potentially, maybe even 4:30, the way these two teams maybe ground and pound it tomorrow. Kearney, the number 1 rushing offense right now in the MIAA, averaging 304 yards per game, just under 2,000 yards in the season. Northwest, number 1 rushing defense, just allowing under 77 yards per game. So like you said, something is going to have to give here. We've seen in the past that teams that run that triple option against Northwest don't normally have success. You think back to a couple years ago, the playoff game against Harding University, who ran a true triple option. They couldn't do anything. And the problem with that is triple option teams, they don't pass the ball a lot, obviously, just by nature. So you get yourself in a 14-0 hole, a 17-0 hole, really anything more than 2 scores, and it makes it almost impossible to catch back up because you haven't thrown the ball a lot this year. So you don't have the personnel to do that that's built for a comeback, and you just end up running the ball. Well, you haven't had success running the ball, and it just kind of spirals downhill. So who knows if that's going to be the case. This is obviously a different Northwest defense than we've seen in years past. The run game has still been really good, but I still don't know that it's at the level that it's been the last couple of years. So there's going to be a lot of things to watch this weekend, I think.
If they are able to force Kearney into passing, I think they're in a better situation than they have been early on in the season. Because the past couple of games against Pitt and Emporia, and Pitt is obviously a run-first team as well, but Emporia, they've held both of those to about 150 yards through the air, both. And so if they're able to do that, it seems like they've shored up some things in the secondary, moving Lane to safety, and then having the two big physical 6'1" corners there. So I think they've shored up some things there. And if they're able to force Kearney to throw the ball, and like you said, Trevor, they may be uncomfortable throwing the ball 20, 25 times in that game, and that would be something that Northwest can definitely take advantage of.
Now let's not underlook Kearney's defense as well. It has been really solid this year. Second in the MIAA passing-wise, just averaging over 174 yards per game. And then rushing has been just about as well, 120 yards per game. That is third behind Northwest and Missouri Western. And we saw in the Missouri Western game, with the exception of one explosive play by Wright to kind of put the game out of reach, they did a good job of keeping Northwest's running game at bay. So this will be one of the best running defenses or defenses against the run that the Bearcats will see. And I think it's going to be important to not only get them with Strayhorn, but Caldwell, maybe even Raymond Thomas and Brody McMahon as well. They're going to have to use a multitude of backs.
I think that's something that they've been doing all year, has been using that multitude of backs. So I think they're coming in this game well-versed in having, a guy who can – having two or three guys who can go for 50, 60 yards at a time. And I think if they do that, if Strayhorn has another big game where he breaks 100, that they'll be perfectly happy with that. But at the same time, they may even use Wright a little bit more than they did last week in the run game as well. So I guess we'll just kind of see what happens.
Yeah, we'll just kind of go around the table here. Anything in particular that you guys are going to be paying attention to tomorrow? I know you guys have been prepping away for the tailgate show and the broadcast, much like I have, and Justin does every week for the wonderful stories there at the Missourian. So what are you going to be looking at tomorrow, Jacob?
It's like we said, it's that triple option for Kearney. But one thing with that is you get a lot of fresh guys thrown at you throughout the game. There's a lot of different guys that are going to touch the football right now. I think there's 8 guys that have rushed the ball for Kearney over 10 times this season. That's not crazy, but there's 5 guys that have over 30 rush attempts this season. So they're going to throw a lot of different guys with that triple option at Northwest, and they're going to keep their offensive guys fresh, and it's going to be important for Northwest to handle the different styles that come at them throughout the game.
See, I'm a huge defensive guy. Like, I want to see Northwest being able to continue that streak of not giving up 100 yards by one single person, which is not probably very likely with this team since they all...
Or a rushing touchdown.
Exactly, or rushing touchdown. It could possibly happen this week. Then I don't want that to happen. Let's keep that streak alive and see how far they can go.
If there was a week to worry about that streak coming to an end, I think this would be the week with Darius Webb. He's averaging just under 100 yards per game, so he's got that potential for Kearney to open that up. But other than that, this is going to be one of the toughest tests rushing defensively for Northwest.
He's also got 9 touchdowns on the year, so he's coming in 6 games with 9 touchdowns. So he's coming in
about a touchdown and a half a game. So
he's coming in used to scoring, and so he's definitely going to be looking to score. And I think they're at 19 games without allowing a rushing touchdown.
So I don't know the exact number, but I know the last time it happened was Ferris State in the national semifinal 2 years ago. So they played 12 games last year and 6 games this year plus the national title, so 19 games. Yeah. So, and when you look at this matchup all time from a standpoint, and Northwest has just owned Nebraska Kearney. 11-3 all time in this series. You have to go all the way back to 1990 to get Nebraska Kearney's last win. That was before Mel Tjeerdsma, before Northwest kind of became what it is. That was a whopping 10,198 days ago. By the time kickoff rolls around tomorrow, it'll be 10,199. So I think Kearney's going to be hungry to get that win. But it's going to be an interesting matchup tomorrow, I think. And with homecoming, there's a lot of festivities going on as well, Justin. A lot going on here in Maryville. And tomorrow, they're going to honor a team that I think really laid the groundwork for what the culture has been the last 20 years or so here at Maryville.
Yeah, it's that 1998 championship team of Northwest. It was the first championship team, and I believe it was the only undefeated championship team in Division II up to that point. I
might
believe
be right.
So, but they're going to be honoring them at halftime, having those members come out and probably give them a standing ovation, give them, something special they may have planned. But it's definitely going to be a lot like it was during the military day, with a lot of emotions flying around, a lot of, honoring past members of the team and that kind of thing. So it's going to be a great atmosphere for homecoming, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, that team defeated Carson Newman 24-6 in the national title game. That was back when it was played in Florence. They turned around the next year and played an all-time classic against Carson Newman, 58-52, that went into quadruple overtime. And since then, championships in 98, championships in 99, 09, 13, 15, 16, and then also championship appearances from 05 through 08 that came up just a tad bit short. So that's maybe one of the most probably is the most influential team in the history of not just Bearcat football, but Bearcat athletics as a whole, and kind of showed that Coach Cheersman had everything going in the right direction.
It also brought people to hey, let's go to Northwest and win. And that's pretty much what happened. And more people kept coming with that. It was very good talent-wise, and Northwest kept winning, which that's perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of, because growing up, and I grew up 45 minutes from here, just across the state line in Iowa, and I always knew Northwest had a winning culture, a winning history, and going to Bearcat games, I don't think I ever went to a Bearcat game where it was actually close. They were always, they always had national championship caliber teams. Might always win the national title, but they had teams that were capable of it, and it kind of turned the page for the athletic program as a whole. And it's allowed a lot of great things. I know another great thing that's going to be going on later on today that I think you're going to be in a hurry to get out of here for in a little bit, Justin, is the field house. We've been seeing all winter and, I guess I should say all summer and last spring. And did it start in the winter? When did they break ground on it?
I don't remember the exact
I don't remember.
date.
But we've been seeing the work on it for quite some time, but today it's finally going to open. I think you're going to make your way over there in a little bit to check it out.
Yep, they're having the dedication and ribbon cutting at 4 o'clock, so I'll be over there to get that coverage on that. And it's something that's been, like you said, it's been a long time coming, and everyone's been kind of anticipating it. It's got that full-size indoor track for the track team, the practice field for football if the weather for some reason just gets super crazy like sometimes it does. And it's also, going to help out the band. They're going to let them, practice in conditions that are better suited for them when it's raining or pouring down or snowing or something like that. So it's going to have a big effect on the campus and on the community as a whole.
Yeah, a great thing in the ribbon cutting ceremony for that is at 4
Yep.
o'clock today. Justin will be there to check out. A lot of things going on here in Maryville. It's homecoming week. Nebraska Kearney in town. Kickoff at 2 o'clock tomorrow. You can catch that game on X106 with myself and the wonderful duo of Jacob Blair and Kramer Sansone. It is homecoming, like I said, guys, so you got to be careful if you're Northwest that this isn't as much of a problem in college. I know you see it in high school all the time with the homecoming festivities kind of overlooking things. I don't think that's going to be a problem with Northwest. This is a program that's so used to winning. But you go back to last year against Lindenwood, a Lindenwood team that I don't think was nearly as good as Nebraska Kearney. They did struggle with Lindenwood a little bit, so maybe just something to kind of keep in mind tomorrow.
They just need to stay focused.
Yep.
If they just stay focused, they're fine.
I think they will. I think they'll stay focused.
If not, there's going to be a big speech from the coach that's going to lay it down on them.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
When you go back a couple of years ago, too, I think it would have been 2014, they actually lost on homecoming, the Pittsburgh State game.
I remember that.
Yeah, I was at that game. I think it was a senior in high school, and very, very somber day in Maryville when that happened, and it's never fun when the Bearcats lose on homecoming.
Or at home.
Or at home in general. Yeah, no, it's never good for that to happen. So I don't think that'll happen tomorrow. We're not going to make actual predictions because we're calling the game, so we won't do that. But I think this will be an interesting game. It's going to be a physical game. I think it could be a lot more low scoring than people think. I don't know if this is a 31-0 game or a 38-0 game. This might be like a 17-0 game or whatever, because you got two defenses that are really going to come to play tomorrow, and we'll want to keep an eye on that. I'm excited for it. I wish we could just go ahead and kick off right now. So I'm sure no one else does, but we're going to take a real quick break on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. When we get back, we're going to take a look around other Bearcat athletics. Basketball is about a month away. There's some happenings in tennis and volleyball and much, much more. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Weekend Sports Kickoff on KNWT Channel 8 and X106.
You that the views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
As we're going to talk some other Northwest athletics this week. We already kind of recapped last week's football thrashing down at Pittsburgh State. Also, homecoming tomorrow at Nebraska or against Nebraska Kearney at Bearcat Stadium. Myself, Jacob Blair, Kramer Sansone will be on the call. We're joined by Northwest Missourian sports editor Justin Quick. And Justin, football's not the only sport going on in the fall. I know sometimes with this, as football crazy as this town and campus is, we tend to forget that. But basketball, about a month away from starting. The first game is slated for November 3rd against Ferris State. That'll be played at St. Joe. They'll play two games at St. Joe. I think
it's a Saturday and a Sunday.
Against the two teams that played in the national championship game last year, Ferris State and Northern State. So no Justin Pitts this year, no Chrissy Buendow, no Brett Doherty. It's going to look a lot different, and that's going to be a really big test to see where the Bearcats are at and see if maybe the preseason love they've got in the media poll is worthy or not.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch the media, media kickoff there in Kansas City, but managing editor Joe Andrews was able to watch that and report on that. McCollum talked a lot about the young guys. He said they're gonna play the young guys a lot. They're gonna get thrown in there and just kind of thrown into the fire a little bit. Guys like Diego Bernard might see action really quick. And he said that the last time they had that going, they had a guy named Justin Pitts, and it worked out pretty well for him. So I think that's something they're going to kind of go with again. Like you said, they're starting off pretty hot against the two teams that played in the national championship. So we'll get to see early on what they're made of.
And when you look at this roster, you not only lost a lot of key pieces that's been here for the last 4 years, but there's only I think 2 seniors left on this roster now, and one of them was the transfer in Wittes, and he's a senior now. But it's going to come down to those freshmen, the one redshirt freshmen, seeing what they can do. And a lot of times you'll see, the freshmen that come in, they redshirt this year. They don't even have that opportunity. They're going to have to suit up. They're going to have to put in some minutes. And with the first 2 games that this Northwest team's going to have to play, they're going to have to learn their identity real quick and figure that out real quick, because when you look at this lineup, you really don't know where because it's been the identity of this team has been Justin Pitts. No one really knows who's going to who the identity of this team is going to be.
I mean, I don't know there will be a new Justin Pitts, but who the guy is that's going to fill that role is.
It may not necessarily be one guy, but is there anyone that steps up and are there 2 guys that kind of fill that void that Justin Pitts is left and graduating?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, they do return some pieces from last year too. I mean, it's not like they lost. Not like the cupboard is completely empty, but it's not full by any means. You do return Tyler Doherty, who has kind of seen some mop-up time in relief of his older brother Brett, who's now graduated, as you mentioned, Joey Wittes, and then Ryan Hawkins, a sophomore, or actually he's a redshirt sophomore from Atlantic, Iowa. I saw this kid play in high school a lot. He's a very athletic kid, a very gifted kid. He's one of those I could see stepping up. And then Ryan Welty as well, who's been seeing significant playing time since he was a freshman, kind of maybe stepping up into a bigger role as well. But of this roster of 11 players right now, only 5 of them are juniors or seniors. And you look at the juniors and seniors, Dre Starzo, who hasn't seen an ample amount of playing time, Tyler Doherty kind of in that same boat. The only 3 guys on this roster that saw a lot of playing time over the last year, Wittes, Hawkins, and Welty. So you think one of those guys will step up.
And I like the maybe going with the Hawkins and Welty dynamic, because these guys, they hit threes. That's what they do.
And when you have a 6'7" guy and a 6'8" guy that can hit threes.
And they also have a very good paint game too. And I mean, it's going to spread out the entire defense on the opposite team, and that's what's going to help these young guys, young freshmen, I should say, in order to try to drive the basket, kick out, 3, boom, there you go. That's pretty much the Northwest has load behind the 3 pretty much the past 4 seasons that I've been watching him.
Yeah, you think back, Zach Schneider, that's all he did was shoot threes. You don't see a lot of posts that shoot threes the way he did. But last week, the MIAA Media Days took place, and as always with those media days, you get the polls, you get a coaches poll, you get a media poll. Just kind of gauge where people think the season is going to be at the beginning of the year. It's Most of the time, they're not totally accurate just because you don't know. But in this one, in the coaches' poll, Northwest was picked to finish second. However, they did have more first-place votes. This is the one that's decided between the coaches in the MIAA. They got 7 of the first-place votes. Missouri Southern got 6. Washburn did receive 1 first-place vote. But the way those polls work is you rank them, and it's a point system essentially. Missouri Southern was picked to finish first by that poll. And then the media poll, Northwest actually edged Missouri Southern by 1 point, but Missouri Southern had more votes. On the, I count 21 total voters. Missouri Southern had 10 first-place votes. Northwest had 6. Washburn with 3. Pitt State and Fort Hays each had 1. So, like I said, it's tough to gauge these really, and you can't take them too seriously because we don't know what these teams are going to be. We just talked about how much this team lost from last year and the question marks, but still, I mean, they're picked to be up in the top of the MIAA this year. That's got to speak to something with the program that Coach McCollum's built up here.
I think that has a lot to do with the program and the respect that they have for McCollum and Bearcat athletics as a whole. I mean, if you've got guys, like you said, you've lost 5 or 6 guys that played a lot of minutes for you. And then you also, not only on the court, but off the court, you lost your assistant coach, Austin Meyer, who went over to the women's side, and Schneider's going to take his spot this year, so we'll see how that works out. But to lose that many guys on the court and then also lose an assistant coach just speaks to how much the MIAA and the media respects both McCollum and the program.
So Northwest basketball, we sit right now just 22 days away from the start of basketball season. They will take on Northern State on November 3rd at St. Joe, and then they'll take on Ferris State that next day. Then the next week they go back down to St. Joe for a Friday-Saturday swing with Upper Iowa and Winona State. Their first home game will be on November 16th against Truman State. That will be a 7 p.m. tip-off. We will preview that when the time gets closer. Let's just take a real quick look. You mentioned Austin Meyer transitioning over from the role of men's head assistant to now the women's head coach. This is a team that I'm really interested to see what they can do this year because there's a lot of turnover. You've got some young faces stepping up and maybe a little bit of a change in culture. I mean, what is a realistic expectation for this team this year?
You're talking about the women's team,
Yeah, the
right?
women.
Okay. I think the women's team, with the culture that has been set with them the past few years, has been a losing culture. And I think that's the biggest thing that Meyer is going to want to change. I think he's going to want to come in and compete hard, not necessarily get the wins, kind of like what Mark Gordon is doing right now. It's been a losing culture for so long that he just wants to come in and have them compete. Maybe not get the wins right off. I think if they're able to get into the conference tournament and be competitive in that conference tournament, I think that's a success of a season for them, considering where they have been the past few years. But I think that's something that he's going to look forward to do, is just have them be competitive all year.
The last 2 years, they've won a combined 14 games. I think if you can get somewhere in that 8 to 12 win region this year, that could be a turn in the right direction. A lot of young faces on that team that are going to try to step up and turn things around. They will start on November 9th against Wayne State College. They're in a 2-day swing out in wonderful Wayne, Nebraska, as they will take on Wayne State and the University of Minnesota Crookston. Their first home game will be on November 14th against the College of St. Mary's of Nebraska. So about a month from home basketball for the women's. Lots of other Bearcat athletics going on. Volleyball last weekend had a 2-day swing at home. They dropped a close one to Central Oklahoma on Friday night in 5 sets, got down 2-0, stormed back, but came up just a tad short, as close as you can, 16-14 in that 5th set. But then I called the Pitt State game on Saturday, and they kind of made up for what they couldn't do on Friday night as they were able to take care of Pitt State in 3 sets.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird home stretch for them. They played 4 straight home games, and both of the games that they lost went to 5th sets. The first one against Kearney, they were up 2-0, and now this one against Central Oklahoma, they were down 2-0. And so it was kind of interesting to see how they fought through both of those. And you mentioned the Central Oklahoma game was really close, all those sets except for the first one being decided, by 3 or 4 points each. So it was definitely the definition of a close match the entire time. And I think the Pitt State game kind of got them back on track to where they need to be heading into their road stretch.
Yeah, they won that match 25-18, 30-28. I didn't think that match was ever going to end. And then 25-23. Now they're on the road for a little bit. They've got a 5-game road swing at Emporia State tonight, at Washburn tomorrow, at Missouri Western on Tuesday, at Lindenwood next Friday, and then at Central Missouri next Saturday. And they have just 2 home games left this season. A 2-day swing on October 26th and October 27th when they take on Missouri Southern and Southwest Baptist. Some other Bearcat sports going on. Tennis right now, they're being well represented, Justin.
Yeah, they are. They're down in Rome, Georgia right now for the ITA Cup, and Franco Oliva, I believe that's what you said,
Yep.
Kramer. He's down there to represent Bearcats, and it's the top 8. It's the winners of every regional get to go, and so he won the Central Regional, and so he's down there representing the Bearcats. I know he won his first match against the number 4 seed and then lost to the number 1 overall seed, so now he's down there. I think he's playing for 3rd place.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's today or tomorrow, one of those two.
Tomorrow.
And so he's definitely representing Bearcat tennis and kind of the direction they want to go, get back on top of the conference and be nationally recognized.
Yeah, Coach Rosewell was he was happy that this happened because he said, yeah, Oliva got hot at the right time, and in order for him to get this far into the tournament, which is pretty exciting for Bearcats.
Yeah, he dropped in the semifinals to top-ranked Karim Panu of Columbus State, lost 6-3, 6-4. He will play for 3rd place tomorrow against Arthur Figuri of Bluefield State. So well representing. He's doing a great job representing Northwest down at the ITA Cup, and we wish him the best of luck tomorrow, as a lot of things going on tomorrow throughout and all week and next week and really all year in Bearcat athletics. His homecoming is tomorrow. Nebraska Kearney in town take on the Bearcats. You can catch the game on X106. Myself, Jacob Blair, Kramer Sansone on the call. 2 p.m. kickoff. Also, the tailgate show will begin at 12:30, streaming on YouTube Live as well as on KZLX. You can listen to it there with Jacob, Kramer, and Nolan Brooks. That'll begin at 12:30. Justin, I know you got to get over to the field house for the ribbon cutting ceremony, so I'll let you do that. And thanks for coming on, and I'm sure I'll talk to you tomorrow, and then we'll see you again next Friday.
Sounds good.
All right, that's Northwest Missourian sports editor Justin Quick. We're going to take a real quick break.
The views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
You're listening to the Weekend Sports Kickoff here on KNWT Channel 8 Facebook Live and X106. Trevor Mater, Jacob Blair, Andrew Wegley's got his hood up because it's the weekend, and one Kramer Sansone as well, wrapping things up here today. And Andrew, I know here in just a little bit, you're going to make the short little 25-minute trek down to good old Savannah, Missouri for some Class 3 football, and a lot on the line tonight.
Yeah, pretty much the game for the the Midland Empire Conference tonight.
I know at times it could get medieval.
It certainly might between how much both of these teams run the ball. But yeah, both of these teams are 5-0 in the conference. They're both Maryville 6-1 overall. Savannah's 5-2, but that doesn't matter in conference play. You just have to win the conference. So pretty much, and you can't say for sure because both these teams could. Savannah, they could both lose, or one could lose tonight, but they could both lose week 6.
Savannah's still got to play St. Pius X, and Maryville goes to Lafayette next week, and those are the 3rd and 4th place.
Yeah, Lafayette is in 3rd place,
and St. Pius
is in 4th.
And Pius has, I think, 1 loss on the year because they play Lafayette tonight. We talked about this on This Week in High School Sports.
Pius lost to
Maryville.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, both teams aren't out of the woods yet.
You know how crazy it would be if Savannah wins, then you have St. Pius lose
to Lafayette.
Yeah, then it's like, well, no.
And then Lafayette beats
St. Pius. Lafayette lose because Lafayette's 6-1, not 6-1, 5-1.
St. Pius is 5-4. I think the craziest scenario would be Savannah beat Maryville tonight.
It's gonna be a tie.
And then Lafayette beats St. Pius.
I don't even know what I'll write about
tonight, and then St. Pius beats Savannah next week, and Maryville beat Lafayette. Then you would have a 4-way tie, essentially.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah. In reality, Maryville's probably gonna win tonight and go ahead and win the conference, but it's easily going to be their toughest test that they'll play all year, I think.
And in a bigger picture, too, Maryville and Savannah are both in the same district this year. We've already, postseason-wise, broadcast-wise, kind of made plans that Maryville's going to host a district. But, I mean, if they lose tonight, both teams sit at 6-2, and Savannah has the
Savannah
head to
has
head
the conference and
the conference.
So
then you're saying, okay, well, then Savannah's
all Savannah has to do is beat St. Pius,
and then
they'll take
they
conference.
should be and they would host the district as well. So a lot on the line here tonight as Maryville travels to Savannah. Last week they took on Bishop LeBlond. I think that game went pretty much as expected. Bishop LeBlond just kind of playing the numbers game, not being dealt a full hand, so to speak.
And they ended up having 23 players in that roster.
Yeah, but still for a Class 3, I mean, there's 8-man schools that have more players than that. So just kind of a not being dealt a full hand. And when you go against a program like Maryville, the last thing you want to do is not be able to have the numbers to compete. So they picked up the win last week, 82-8. They've been really dominant the last couple weeks, but they've got 2 big tests this week. Just kind of, was there any one particular thing you're looking at tonight with these teams?
I think this is the first time the Spoof Hounds have played an offense anywhere close to theirs since Blair Oaks week 1. Every win since then has been at least a 36-point margin of victory for the Spoof Hounds, which is 6 consecutive weeks of doing so, or 6 consecutive weeks. They haven't allowed more than
I think 12 against Cameron might have been the...
Yeah, that's the highest one since they allowed 38 to Blair Oaks in that loss. They're averaging, I think, giving up 9.7 points per game or something like that. And when you look at the conference, they're giving up less than 6 points per game, which sounds like hockey numbers or soccer numbers. I mean, it's just insane how few points they're allowing. So I'll look for Savannah to actually test the Spoof Hounds defense for the first time in I don't know how, literally since week 1. The starters might play a full 4 quarters tonight. That'll be the first time they've done that also since Blair Oaks. And all these points they've given up, like you said, the 12 to Cameron, the 8 to LeBlanc last week. The starters were in, but they had some help from the Zebras on that one. The refs were just atrocious in that game last week. But all the points before that to Cameron, to St. Pius, and to Chillicothe. Or Chillicothe might have been a shutout.
Chillicothe was a shutout.
There was one in between there that also scored, I think, or Benton. Sorry. Yep. All those points between Cameron, Benton, and St. Pius were given up by the second and third string defense. So these starters have not allowed a point other than the 8 points to LeBlanc since that first week. So it'll be interesting to see how this offense matches up with Maryville's defense and vice versa, because Savannah's averaging less than 20 points per game. And, the Spoof Hounds generally put up quite a few, but that's against garbage defenses. So we'll see if they can contain Eli Dowis and Tyler Haushin, which sounds like an impossible task to me. Then this could be an interesting game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think, for at least the first quarter, I have to see where these teams are. I don't want to overlook Savannah, but at the same time, who knows how things could play out tonight. Maryville's just been playing so darn good as of late. Now, granted, they've played the teams right now. They're at the bottom half of the MEC, with the exception of St. Pius X. But I'll definitely want to keep an eye on tonight as the Spoof Hounds travel to Savannah to take on the Savages. Spoof Hounds against the Savages. That's a pretty good nickname game right there.
One of those names is very problematic and should probably be changed.
Probably.
But I digress.
I don't think they're going to change it, though.
That's another topic for another day.
I mean, that's insane to me. That I understand, the Redskins are $1 billion, football team. The Savannah Savages, what do you have to lose in changing your name? Nobody cares outside of your 30-mile radius.
Yeah, but that's another conversation for another day. And this is the Weekend Sports Kickoff, and I think it's time now that we say goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
And we'll get things ready for homecoming weekend this weekend here in Northwest. Nebraska Kearney comes into town tomorrow to take on the Bearcats. You can catch the game at 2 o'clock. Myself, Jacob, and Kramer will all be on the call. You can catch Tailgate Show at 12:30 tomorrow on KNWT YouTube Live, as well as on X106 with Jacob, Kramer, and Nolan Brooks. You guys got anything else you want to add?
Follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, follow you on Twitter.
Yeah.
At
Andrew_Wegley21. I'll have some supplemental live tweets with Justin Quick this weekend, and they usually go pretty well. People like my opinions for some reason. So,
Jacob, what are you watching this weekend?
A lot of NASCAR.
A lot of what?
We're going to let that game I see. NASCAR.
All right. Now your mic's off now. Forget. All right, I'm going to be watching it too. So
Go Blue.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
I did
Go
pick
Blue.
them to win. So I guess in that case, since I need Iowa to get themselves back in the Big Ten West hunt.
Yeah, let's go Brewers tonight.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go Brewers.
And Chiefs. So
Chiefs
not tonight, but
let's go
Sunday night.
Spoof Hounds tonight.
Okay.
I don't really care.
I think you're supposed to be.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
That's
but
what they say.
This is a Weekend Sports Kickoff, and thank you for listening to the Weekend Sports Kickoff on KNWT Channel 8 and X106.